Ready Player One is a 2018 film by Steven Spielberg. The film stars Ty Sheridan as our hero Wade Watts, and the year is 2045. The world has exhausted all of its natural resources, and people are turning into a video game virtual reality world called the Oasis for a retreat. The world was created by a man named James Halliday, an eccentric man who has a pop culture obsession, especially focusing on the 80s and the 90s. Our hero Wade Watts plays in the game as Parzival, his avatar of sorts, who's sort of based off of Marty McFly or a Final Fantasy character. When James Halliday dies, he sends a message to all users of the Oasis that he has hidden a gigantic Easter egg inside of the game that, if located, would grant one control of the entire Oasis as well as inheriting his entire fortune. Of course, the world erupts with obsession over finding Halliday's Easter egg, and our hero Wade Watts is at the forefront of that venture. Also vying for control of the Oasis is Sorrento, played by Ben Mendelsohn, the head of an evil corporation known as IOI, whose intent is to gain control of the Oasis and charge users a fee to use it. I think that this film is extremely relevant in today's society, especially with a lot of people sort of becoming completely obsessed, not only with pop culture and fandom, but also with video games. We see a lot of cross-references here, especially regarding spending more time in the real world and sort of checking out every now and then. And we also sort of see a backlash against toxic fandom, which I think is a great message that this film presents in a nice, clean, concise way. I think that the film is technically gorgeous. I think that a lot of the CGI comes off really innovative and new and not entirely gaudy. And in the book, a lot of the references have been made to kind of slap you in the face with pop culture nostalgia. And in this film, screenwriters Zach Penn, Ernest Cline, the writer of the novel, and Steven Spielberg himself have managed to sort of dull that down, not as much slap you in the face with references, but work them in a nice way that's sort of interwoven with the storyline, and it doesn't really beat you over the head with it. And I appreciated that. This is definitely a blockbuster, you guys. Definitely burning some popcorn on this one. It's a thrill ride through and through, and it never really lets off the gas. That's also sort of where this film suffers. The fact that it never lets off the gas doesn't allow its film any room to breathe, and therefore we never get to know any of our characters any more than quick glimpses into their psyche, and ultimately we're sort of left feeling a little bit hollow when we watch this film. The problems that Spielberg runs into here is that he never manages to capture and connect to that heart that we've seen prevalent in so many early Spielberg works that have sort of faded in his later stuff. The stakes don't necessarily feel real here, and it also sort of feels a little confused and paradoxical. Wade wants control of the Oasis, but for what gain and what means does he really want control of the Oasis enough to fight against IOI and Sorrento, who want just to charge users a fee to use it, and Sorrento just wants to use nostalgia and pop culture and the Oasis for monetary gain, which in turn kind of makes you question, what is this film's intent? It kind of feels like Spielberg is milking nostalgia and pop culture reference for personal gain. Sure, he makes a grand attempt at a little bit of a message towards the end of the film, and there is one moment between Halliday and Parzival towards the end that really does capture that Spielberg heart, but ultimately, I think that he's kind of spitting in his own face with the message here. I don't necessarily think it's Spielberg's fault. I think it's more the source material and the screenplay on this, but I gotta say, this doesn't feel like a Spielberg movie. It doesn't feel like it really has the heartbeat that most of his films have. The actors do as best they can with poorly written and shoehorned in characters in an egregious attempt at cohesiveness here that just doesn't really come off working for me. I overall don't think that Ready Player One is a terrible film. I do think that it's lacking in a lot of composition departments. I think that some of the storytelling aspects were a little bit weak, especially coming from the man that we expect the best from every time. There's a lot of side characters in this that don't get enough time of day and ultimately contribute nothing to the story. I think if you take a couple characters out of this film, nothing's really gonna change. That being like Sho, Daito, IROC, and the evil henchwoman that you'll see in this film. They don't really necessarily play to the plot at all, and the acting isn't exactly strong. It almost detracts. I didn't care about the villain, and he didn't feel particularly evil to me in Sorrento. I actually think that if you would take IROC out of this film and have Sorrento do everything that IROC did in the movie, IROC of course being voiced by TJ Miller, if IROC were out of the film and we had Sorrento's avatar doing everything that he did in the movie, there would be a lot more impact felt, and you would actually hate this character. I mean, at least for me, I thought that his motives were vague. I don't think Ty Sheridan did a great job acting in this film, and I think that Olivia Cooke really brought as much as she could to a role that was horribly underwritten for a female lead, and The relationship between Parzival and Artemis is not something that I want to get started on right now because that is a rabbit hole, but I could talk for hours about how poorly written that relationship was. Now, there's just one thing that I want to talk about. Before this film premiered at South by Southwest, Steven Spielberg came on the stage and he said, "This is a movie, not a film." I know that that's really not meant to trash the film, but to me it's a little bit disconcerting coming from the man who directed it. I don't think that there should be a difference necessarily between a movie and a film. I understand that he's trying to say this is a blockbuster, this is a popcorn fun thrill ride of a movie. And I get that, and it was. You were successful. Especially that second key sequence. If you've seen the movie, you already know what I'm talking about. Horror fans, you are going to love this. Regardless, I don't think that you have to separate film and movie. I think that what he means to say is don't dissect this, don't pick this apart, but this is coming from the man who invented the blockbuster and has actually been blending movies and films together since the beginning of his career. I don't know why we can't have a blockbuster that it offers some room to breathe and character study. Get back to your roots, Steven. Look at Close Encounters of the Third Kind, look at E.T., look at Jaws, look at Raiders of the Lost Ark. We understood those characters and we were able to connect with them a little bit more as an audience than we were able to in Ready Player One, while still getting the thrills and the popcorn bait that we want. This film's getting a 7 out of 10 for me, guys. I do not think that it is the strongest Spielberg outing. I don't even put it in his top 10, though I did have a pretty decent time watching it. Let me know down below, guys, if you got a chance to check out Ready Player One yet and what your thoughts are. As always, click subscribe if you like what I'm doing here at Brown Couch. I love interacting with you guys, so let's hit that comment section down below. Click thumbs up if you like this video, share it around the internet, you know the drill. Guys, follow me on the Stardust app if you want, at George Crow, capital Georgecrow. That's 10 letters, 2 syllables. I'll see you guys there, and I'll see you guys on the Brown Couch next time. Take care.